everyone, this is Dane here. This is the second year of me keeping bees. The first year didn't necessarily go out too well. The bees were looking good going into fall, and at least one hive was. The other hive, the queen, was looking weak. And at some point I tore apart the hive because I thought the queen had died. But when I was cleaning out the hive, I did eventually find the queen, but she wasn't laying well, and it looked like I had a laying worker in the hive. But I figured, you know what, it's my first year, let's try and see what happens, let it go. And lo and behold, by probably the end of November, the queen and the colony had died off. The other hive that I had, the hive was super strong going into fall, going into winter. I thought they had a really high chance of surviving. Came out in January, and about 3/4 of the hive was already, or the colony was dead. I figured I would see what would happen, see if any survived into May. Now we're on May 20th, and yeah, the colony died off about a month ago. It was completely gone, so now I'm starting over again with a whole new hive. Let's get into the large hive, that one I haven't cleaned out yet, and see how that's going. So one of the things that I did over the winter, here we have the outer cover off, and I'll pull the inner cover off, is I put a quilt box on the top of the hive. The hive was super dry when I checked it in January, and things seemed to be okay with that. The shavings were completely dry, but I guess that's what's to be expected from the colony dying off so quickly going into fall. Now, what we're going to see here is the first layer of the top bee box. I went into, I do all mediums, and I went into winter with 3 medium supers. And what we'll see here is that we have full things of honey right there. Move on to the next one. Another full one here, both sides. Completely full. Pretty much a whole box of partially drawn comb with honey in it, and drawn comb completely drawn with some honey in it. So there we go. It's kind of crazy thinking that the colony just died off, so easily going into fall. Got a couple that they hadn't quite gotten to yet, drying out, and we got some dead bees on there. So let's move down to the next box. I haven't seen the hive that deep in, but we'll see how it goes from there. So this one I haven't pulled into yet, but last time I was out here I didn't have a tool to break these frames out, and they were in here pretty tight. So, there's not really anything for dead brood in there. Looks like we got some pollen in this frame, and a couple dead brood, but not really much. The population counts of this hive had gone way down going into winter. Let's try and readjust the camera here, see if we can get a better view of this. Right now I have this set on my second hive, and we'll see if we can get it to stick. There we go. There, we should be able to see everything now. Let's pull this one. Nothing. Looks like wet pollen in here. Doesn't smell like there's any full brood going on. More pollen. Completely empty of brood. The same here. And looks like bees died with their heads. Well, these ones died coming out, so yeah, apparently the brood just wasn't kept warm enough from what I can see. If you know anything different, let me know. There we go. Looks kind of like sugary and pollen-y in those areas there. Same, looks like wet pollen. Smells like wet pollen. There's that. And that one looks fine. Yeah, I think we're good here. So what I'll do is I'll make a cut here, and we'll take this next step. So I have a package with me today, and we're going to do a package installation. But what I have to do is, one thing to consider when you're setting up your beehives is where your hives are located. The current location that I have available to me is a friend of mine, and as you can see down there, my vehicle's parked, and there's a lot of mud and dirt, and I don't want to be tearing up his grass too bad driving up in here. So I did that a little bit last year, and that's what you can see for the ruts. So I have to walk quite a ways in order to get the package. So I'll make a cut here, and then we'll come back when I'm doing the installation. Quick note, I was opened it up, got down to the bottom, and found a bunch of the foundation from the upper frames up there. What I used was an 8-pound test line in order to hold the foundation in. And then once the bees have started pulling out the foundation, they tend not to like to have this 8-pound test in there. What they'll actually do is they'll eat through the edge of the string, and then they'll pull it out the entrance. So do have quite a bit of that wax foundation sitting here. I'm going to have to clean this up before I get the package. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have to do a selection of what foundation I'm going to use in the initial box with the package. So we'll come back when I make that selection and we'll talk over why I chose what I chose when it came to frames. I'm sitting there digging through the wax at the bottom, and what do you know, there's a bee in there. It looks a little funny, but I figured I'd document it so we could get a good look at it later and see exactly what's up with it. It looks like its thorax, or its body, is quite short on the back, so I'm not sure what type of bee it is. It looks somewhat like a honeybee. It's a little and fuzzy like a honeybee, but we'll see. If you know what type of bee that is, make a comment, let me know. So here's what I've decided for frame selection. We have here on the outsides is we have the full frames, a couple full frames of honey on each side. I wanted the bees to have as good a start as possible going into, or being in spring, and one of the ways to do that is to make sure they have enough sources of honey. This one is only partially filled, and it's partially drawn, which will give the bees something to draw out. Then in the center we have the pollen, and of course a lot of empty cells for the bees or the queen to lay in. The same here, more pollen, more empty cells for the queen to lay in. Continued there. And this one here is a lot of pollen, and a lot of empty cells on the other side. And then we go into one that's mostly undrawn, and then we got the two full on the side there. So this will give the bees a good start going into spring. So we'll see how they do. Now I'm going to go and head over and grab the package, and we'll install them. So one thing to keep in mind when you're installing a package of bees is that you may want to wear protection. It's not necessary, I've installed packages before without any protection on, and it worked fine. Not really any issues. But I usually just wear it just in case, because it turns out that I'm one of those people that has a moderate reaction to bee stings. So yeah, I could tough it out and, you know, act like a tough man, but I don't think it's worth the 4 to 5 days of misery that it leads up to, or leads up after it, because, you know, it's just not fun being stung. And in this time and space, they're mostly acting like a swarm, so they're not likely to cause much of an issue, but I'm always going to be cautious after the few incidences I had last year. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull out this thing of sugar. Oh, actually, first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop this to get. No, I'm going to pull this out. Get the queen out. The main priority is always to take care of the queen, make sure she doesn't get injured. So we'll do that. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spray them so that they feel less inclined to fly. There we go. Now that we got that, and pull this jar back out. Give them a shake and dump them out. Now they'll work their way down into the hive. I probably should have taken a couple frames out, but it is what it is. Maybe I can still take a couple frames out. Now we can see over here is that some of the bees are starting to hang out with the queen. Right there, kind of surrounding her, so that's good. They're going to kind of crowd around her. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prep the queen now. Ah, this is a beautiful queen. She's got kind of an amber body to her. I don't know if we'll be able to get it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, she's a nice looking queen. Hopefully she stands up this year, survives. Let's see. It looks like with this specific bee provider, they only provided us with a cork. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stick the queen in there between two of the frames, and then we'll have to come back later and remove the cork. I'll probably do it. Today's a Wednesday. I'll probably do it on Sunday evening, maybe. Give them some good time to get acquainted with their queen. So let's slide her into the hive. Get her in there, and then I'll slide her to the center. There we go. Queen's in there. We're all set. Next thing I'll do is I'll close up the hive. Looks like the bees are loving this can of syrup. So I'm gonna stick this on the Borbin feeder I have in the front here, so they continue to drink from it. And we'll come back in a couple days and see how they're doing. There we go. Outer cover on, inner cover is going on. And they're in their new home, ready to go.